Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, as always.
Dan Sprouse.
She's Zan Sprouse. Aren't you, now that we know who we are, now we got that out of the way, let's talk about some Twin Peaks, everybody, because, yeah, welcome to Ghostwood. We're going to talk about, of course, The Return, Part 16, as we draw ever closer to the series finale, or is it? Who knows?
As much as I didn't want this series to end, I loved this episode.
Yeah, this is a really fun episode, and also I think next week's episode is that we're going to talk about. Episode 17 was also good.
Oh yeah, I just think this was my favorite one since episode 8.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in this one, particularly the fact that some people that deserve to die actually die in this episode.
Yes, they do.
Rather horribly.
You know what's interesting? And some of them you're kind of like, aw.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of character, and I think that's such good character writing.
Right.
When you write evil characters that are horrible and there's nothing redeeming about them at all, but when they die, you're a little bit sad.
Although I don't think anybody's gonna miss Richard, are they?
Nobody's gonna miss Richard.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm guessing Richard does not fall into that aforementioned category.
He does not fall into that aforementioned category. No, that is true.
All right. So, speaking of old Rich, let's just dive right into our first topic.
Yeah, we start off with Richard and Doppelganger Cooper driving.
Yeah, in this segment I like to call Bad Binoculars.
Binoculars!
Which was just hilarious, but we got to get into that a little later, I think. But
yes.
But I just thought I'd group that segment because I just love that line. So we open with Mr. C, Doppelganger Cooper, and Richard hitting the road. So we get another great David Lynch driving down the highway, point of view shot at night. So all you can see, the only thing you can see around you are what the headlights show you. So you have no idea what's beyond, and just the total dead of night.
And every time he does that, I still hear David Bowie's "I'm Deranged" going on in the background.
Right.
For those of you who haven't seen Lost Highway, that's what I'm talking about.
I gotcha. But I mean, I think it was also there. I forget what the song was, but I think there was something like that in Wild at Heart too, if I'm not mistaken.
Wild at Heart, yeah, I forget the name of that song.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I can. But you know what I'm talking about, though.
Power Mad is the name of the band.
Okay.
But I can't think of the name of the song right now.
Yeah, I just totally blanked on the song. I just remembered that kind of of a moment. But it's obviously a Lynch visual staple in his work, and so it's like it was one of his signature visuals in this. It's
like the Brian De Palma split screen, only more original.
Right. That's a good analogy. I like that. yeah, that's true. Yeah, De Palma does like it. I mean, he even used it in Mission Impossible.
I don't know. I cannot think of something that he hasn't done that in.
Yeah. You thought it'd be, like you think it would be more toward, his thrillers, but he did it in Mission Impossible too. So I don't know.
No, I never did see Mission Impossible.
Really? Because you're not a Tom Cruise fan.
I don't see Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I think we have too. So, I mean, I get
a total of 3 Tom Cruise movies in my life, I think.
Yeah. So
one of them being Outsiders. So that's all. That's stretching a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because he's just such a peripheral character. He's not
right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But no, I'm a big Mission Impossible geek, so obviously I watched it. So they're driving along. Richard's in the shotgun or in the passenger seat.
That's shotgun.
Well, that's true. That is shotgun. You're right. And then Mr. C's driving, and they arrive at a set of coordinates given by two people.
Right. He has 3 sets of coordinates and 2 of them match.
Right.
And then he says to Richard, "What would you do?" He said, "I'd check out the 2 that match." And he's like, "Well, that's right over there. Let's go."
Yeah, you're a very bright boy.
Yes.
All patronizing.
Mm-hmm.
When he's probably thinking in his head, "Muhahaha."
Yes.
So, but yeah, presumably one of those was what Diane had on her arm from, or got off the arm of Ruth Davenport.
Right. Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
I'm not sure.
But
I'll explain why I'm not sure later.
okay, that's good. That's fair. So the coordinates they lead to this rock that's up on a hill, big old rock, and like Doppelganger Cooper orders Richard to go up the hill. He doesn't do it himself. He doesn't go near that thing.
No, he says, "I'm 25 years your senior."
Right.
Basically saying, "I'm older, do what I tell you to do." He gives him the little device that beeps and will have a continuous tone once he finds it. And then he says, "Let me know when you find it." But before he goes up there...
Right. It's the machine that goes ping. No.
Yes, the machine that goes ping. Before he gets up there, though, we see in the distance running towards them is Jerry Horne.
Yes.
Still out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so Jerry, who we thought had made it back home at this point.
Nope.
Still just, I mean, it kind of gives you an idea of either how lost Jerry was or how big Ghostwood Forest is.
Or both, actually.
But he was running pretty quickly, and so yeah,
he's afraid of something.
Right.
That's what's weird. I want to know what he's scared of. So
yeah.
he runs out and kind of comes over to a clearing and sees them, and he says, "People?"
Right.
So then he gets into his pack and gets out a pair of binoculars.
And presumably he's still tripping balls at this point.
What is he, Charles? What does he think he might possibly be?
Oh, you mean, I think I'm high!
That's exactly what I mean. So he gets out a pair of binoculars from his pack. But
I liked your not so subtle setup on that one.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to hear it. So
yeah, that's okay.
He's looking through the binoculars the wrong way. So he's looking through them from the wrong end, which of course makes everything look further away in real if you do that with the binoculars. But he sees Richard and Doppelganger Cooper, and then he says, "Dear God." And I'm wondering a couple of things.
Okay.
Does he recognize Doppelganger Cooper as being something bad? Or does he just assume that because it's Richard, something bad's about to go down?
Well, maybe he's just surprised that Richard's there at all.
That's true.
Like maybe he just didn't expect Richard to be there.
Right, yeah, I'm not sure. And I'm assuming that if he sees Richard, he assumes that whatever this is can't be good. But I'm also wondering...
But he probably remembers, Agent Cooper. So maybe he's just like, okay, I remember that guy. What is Richard doing with that guy?
Right, and I'm wondering what...
Way out here.
Or... I'm going to get ahead of myself here, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, is there something that's happened to him while he's been in the woods that he knows a little bit more, and that does he think it's bad because it's Richard, or does he know it's really bad because it's Richard and Doppelganger Cooper?
Yeah, this is one of the things where I hope there's some deleted scenes with Jerry.
Yes.
That hopefully will be out on the upcoming Blu-ray set, which just got announced today, I should point out.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so December 5th, everybody. Now that we're actually, since I brought it up. So yeah, December 5th, Twin Peaks Season 3, as it's advertised, which I thought was really interesting, as opposed to The Return.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, yeah, exactly. So early Christmas present for Twin Peaks fans.
Yes, just in time for Hanukkah and Christmas.
So all of you people that avoided Showtime can now go, hey, I was justified. But we saw it before you did, so.
But if you're listening to this, you're getting the gist of it anyway. So.
Yeah, unless you pirated it. But, hey, we don't support that.
We don't support that.
We don't support that.
We want David Lynch to have as much money as he wants,
exactly.
So he'll come back.
We want David Lynch to have all the monies.
This is where I pull my Fry. Shut up and take my money.
Exactly. But okay, so at this point, Richard's up on the hill, by the rock, and he's like the device is going ping 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 ping, and it starts getting it goes from like a staggered noise to a continuous noise. So at this point, all of a sudden, it's like there's an electric bear trap goes off essentially,
Mm-hmm.
where Richard is suddenly like surged with electricity.
He's zapped by some sort of
Yeah,
electrical. As soon as he gets into
it's
the
not
area,
like it's like a lightning strike, but there was no lightning strike.
it's more like a lightning strike that's taking the form of sparklers.
Yeah.
It's like sparking out of his body. It's like sparks coming out of his chest,
Yes.
and then sparks and smoke. And as soon as he gets to the point where the device that Doppelganger Cooper gave him starts letting off a continuous tone, he yells out, "I found it!" And then bzzz, and
Yep.
then he's there for like a minute getting zapped by this electrical current, and then all of a sudden he's just zapped out of existence. He's gone.
See
Yeah.
you. Bye, Richard.
Go away, Richard.
Yeah. Who ordered the extra crispy?
Yeah,
So,
seriously.
but
Super
yeah,
crisp,
yeah,
almost burned.
yeah. So
Cremated.
yeah, totally black. Yeah. Just like the Cooper's bacon. So yeah, he just yeah, it's interesting because like he gets all crispy and then just kind of goes poof, like he's a
Mhm.
firework that just went off.
And this is where I would like to paraphrase the Joker. You are a vicious bastard, Richard, and
And
I'm glad you're dead.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did like Nicholson in that scene. That was great. He does that little head tilt in.
Uh-huh. Yep.
You're a vicious bastard, Vitelli, and I'm glad you're dead.
I'm glad you're dead. So anyway, this is where we get our depressing confirmation that Charles's theory that went along with a lot of people's theories was in fact correct.
Thank you. Although not, I mean, I'm kind of bummed because I didn't want to be right about this one.
No, you didn't want to be. Nobody wanted you to be right on this
Right,
one, but
right. But unfortunately, I was.
He looks up at the rock and he says, "Goodbye, my son."
Yeah, all
And you're
deadpan.
like, oh.
So that means, yep, Richard.
And then again,
Yeah.
there's something else later in this episode that helps confirm this
Yes.
theory. But so then he goes to walk away. But before that, Jerry freaks out by what
Yeah.
he sees through the binoculars.
Yeah, because obviously, if Jerry's stoned at this point,
Mhm.
and he just watched Richard, his nephew, go up, or his grandnephew. His nephew. No, his nephew. His nephew, right?
His nephew.
His
Yeah.
nephew. So,
No,
so
it's his. You're right. It's his
grandnephew, because Audrey's his niece.
He's the grandfather's brother.
Yeah,
Yes.
so Audrey's his niece, so yeah, it would be his grandnephew. So, yeah, he just watched him go up like the 4th of July, and or Red, White, and Boom if you're a Columbus fan, and
Traffic's better.
yeah, traffic's much better.
Yeah.
Not a lot of traffic around the Rock,
No.
but maybe an old gas station. That's about it. But so yeah, obviously he's freaking out by this. He's just like, he's just like, oh my god, he kind of like he just starts muttering to himself, and then he takes his binoculars,
Throws them to the ground.
throws them to the ground, like they showed him the most horrible visual he could ever hope to see, throws them down angrily, and starts punishing the binoculars.
Starts beating them and breaking them. He's like, bad binoculars.
Bad binoculars. Yeah,
Because it's the binoculars' fault that's what happened.
exactly. He was just this close to becoming that priestess from Game of Thrones, walking around going, "Shame, ding,
Oh my gosh.
shame."
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a group of people I was happy to see die.
On Game of Thrones. Yeah.
As much as I to this day
Yeah.
would still hook up with Jonathan Pryce if he asked me to.
Right.
I was kind of glad to see him go.
Well, he was kind of a dick. So yeah,
He was kind of a dick, but I love Jonathan Pryce. I think
yeah, he's great.
when I was younger, I had a big crush on him, and I have a crush on that voice. I'll always have a crush on his voice.
I became a fan when he did he played the Master in the Doctor Who release sketch with Rowan Atkinson. The the Curse of Fatal Death.
Oh yeah, forgot
So
about that.
yeah, go look that up on YouTube. It's definitely worth it.
I'm a something wicked this way comes kind of girl.
Yeah.
So
Well, he's also like a Pirates of the Caribbean and other stuff.
Oh, yeah, and
He's everywhere.
I'm not going to try and sit here and not tell you that I don't still love Madonna,
Okay.
but he's half of why I own Evita on DVD.
Oh.
I just absolutely I fell in love with his voice.
Right.
During Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Oh, and of course, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh yes.
Where he's the big bad,
he's the big bad guy. Yes.
Yeah, he's essentially the Rupert Murdoch of the James Bond films.
Exactly, he's the Rupert Murdoch of the James Bond films, but he's also like the
Elliot Carver,
Mr. Ross, like the Mr. Ross from Superman 3, where he can control the weather. but yeah, Jumpin' Jack Flash, one of my all-time favorites, 80s cheesy movies. He's just a voiceover in that.
Yeah, but he does have a great voice.
God, this voice is amazing.
I wish I had a voice that cool.
Oh, I used to sit and watch those Infinity Q45 commercials just to hear him talk. Love him so much.
Now there's an obscure reference for you.
Oh well, Jonathan Pryce, so great.
Infinity Q45.
Q45, loved him.
Yeah,
loved him so much. And when he was when he was in Game of Thrones, I was like, oh, this is gonna get good. Not that it wasn't good already, but
exactly.
So anyway, back to Twin Peaks.
Anyway, that's all right. We got a little Jonathan Pryce digression there.
Here's the thing that I was wondering, that I was talking about with Jerry just a minute ago.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the Horne family has the same theory we do, or has had the same theory we did about Agent Cooper having raped Audrey.
Oh, okay.
So maybe Jerry knew that, and so when he sees, like, did Jerry know that? When he's
so you're wondering if Jerry knew that Cooper was his father.
Or, right, I'm wondering if the Horne family...
Or Doppelganger Cooper was his father.
Right, I'm wondering if the Horne family... Well, they would have assumed it was just Agent Cooper, but I'm wondering if the Horne family had that same theory, because, people have said that Cooper was seen in her room before he disappeared, and I'm wondering if that was a family conjecture, and when he saw the two of them together, he knew it was bad. I don't know.
I guess it all depends on how much Doppelganger Cooper covered up the act. Like, did he get the security footage afterwards, or what?
But that's the thing.
Because if there was an actual investigation, presumably there would be, because everybody would be like, okay, why is Audrey, who's in a coma, suddenly pregnant? How did that happen?
Right.
So.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it all depends on if they knew. We don't know exactly who in town knew,
right,
that who Richard's father was.
And I just assume the Hornes know everything.
Right. And we don't know how because Richard seemed to suspect it pretty easily, so we don't know how he found out.
Well, I'm assuming that he just sort of tried to. It was probably one of those things. He had a picture.
Well, that's true. Yeah, because Audrey used to talk about Cooper.
Yeah, so he might have been suspicious for that reason.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that's.
So anyway, Richard's gone.
Yep. Thankfully, he's off the board. So now, not exactly like it didn't seem like it was good, like, justice for what's her name,
Miriam.
Miriam, thank you.
Well, but
Miriam, at least, yeah.
Miriam's going to get taken care of by Ben Horne, so that's going to be okay. So after Richard gets zapped out of existence, Doppelganger Cooper goes over to the truck and sends a text.
Yes, and this one's pretty important, as it turns out.
It's a smiley face and the word "all."
Right. In all caps, of course.
In all caps, and so
he's all caps guy.
He's all caps. He's yelling no matter what he says.
Exactly.
So,
but apparently because he's out in the woods, out in the middle of nowhere, and this is at like at 2:05 in the morning, as it turns out, the text won't go through yet. Right. It's just kind of sitting there, waiting until he gets a signal.
So we're not sure who he sends this text to because it just says unknown. Right. So
at this point, we don't know.
We don't know. So I'm thinking, is it Philip Jeffries? Like, who could it possibly be? So,
right. And what does all mean? With the smiley face. Mean? Yeah.
Right. So we'll move on from there.
But obviously, we do find out in this episode.
We do find out, yeah,
in a big way. So, so that's kind of where that's kind of left off. Let's see.
Hutch and Chantal.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Let's. I was just trying to see if there's anything else with them, but I don't think that's it. Hutch and Chantal, or as I like to call this one, it's like an effing circus parade. So.
What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. So Chantal and Hutch just basically camped out in their van, posing as painters.
Yes, posing as painters. They're in painters' overalls.
Exactly.
Coveralls.
But apparently they're just kind of hanging out in the van, and nobody's really giving them a second look. They're doing stakeout, as it turns out. So they're staking out Dougie Jones's place.
Right, and they're kind of in the back of the van. They're not, like, in the front, so
right.
They're not terribly conspicuous. So they're in front of Dougie's house.
Yeah,
waiting for him.
And Chantal's got her chips, of course. She's
got her Cheetos.
Got her Cheetos, and she's popped open a soda, and she's kind of kicking back on Hutch like he's furniture.
Pretty much, yeah. And they're just sort of hanging out, talking about the bird they heard this morning, and that guy Sammy who died that Hutch still owes money to.
Yep.
Did you feel bad about that?
Yeah.
So, and then the FBI pulls up.
Yes. So there's basically a whole sequence of events here. So first, these FBI agents. Of course, this is the L.A. or Las Vegas, the LV FBI, mm-hmm. And of course it's that one FBI director who's really abusive to his underling Wilson.
Wilson, yes.
Yeah. So the FBI director is just making fun of Wilson still.
He's telling him to go get a car and stay.
Yeah, you stay behind and keep an eye while I'm going to go with the rest of the squad. We're going to go to the Lucky 7 Insurance.
Right. He says, it doesn't look like anyone's home. Oh, you think so, Wilson? Yeah. So Wilson goes and gets a car and is staking out the house. So now we have...
Yeah, so the rest of the guys go off and Chantal's all good riddance.
Right. So now we have Hutch and Chantal staking out the house. Right. And the FBI is going to be staking out the house too. So while everybody's waiting for Dougie to come home, we find out that Dougie is still in the hospital in intensive care after having been electrocuted.
Okay. So you want to go back? Okay, we'll do that first. So
right.
Yes. So
the rest depends on why they go there. So
exactly. So Dougie, he's in a coma, and Janie, you got Janie E, Sonny Jim there, of course. Bushnell Mullins is there, and they're all kind of watching over him. And Sonny Jim makes some comment like, "Well, hey, does electricity cause comas?"
No, honey. Well, in this case, it kind of did.
Yeah. Bushnell's like, in this case, it kind of does.
His mom says, does a coma have anything to do with electricity?
Yeah.
No, sweetie. Well, in this case, it kind of does.
Hey, Mr. Wizard,
right? Exactly.
Does electricity cause comas? Why? In this case, it does, Billy. No.
Yes. You see, your father stuck a fork into an electrical socket.
Exactly.
Forks are made out of metal, which conduct electricity. And the human body being comprised of mostly water, which also conducts electricity.
And we should have some animation with some kind of Venture Brothers music that all retro 50s.
Right. Or like Mr. DNA from
from Jurassic Park. Yeah. It's Dino DNA.
Where is Louie the Lightning Bug when we need him?
Right. That's true. That would be great.
Love Louie the Lightning Bug. You gotta play it safe around forks and outlets.
Around Electricity.
Electricity.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a terrifying mashup of my childhood. Right
That would be great. No, yeah, those old those PSAs, yeah, mash that up with Twin Peaks. Holy crap.
oh my gosh.
That's great. That's very surreal. Now, if you could do that with I'm Just a Bill, then that would be even better. But
Nothing is ever going to be as good as the Simpsons parody of
yeah,
I'm Just Bill, the
yeah,
amendment to be.
right.
So good.
Yeah, that was good. I'll give you that. That was epic.
Oh
So
yeah.
so the Mitchum brothers, and of course the Andys, Mandy, Candy, and Sandy.
They show up at the
They
hospital.
show up and they're all happy. They're like, hey, Dougie's still their guy. So they come bearing gifts. So they've got like a bunch of finger sandwiches.
He says, you don't want to eat that hospital food, but you got to eat.
Yeah,
So we're
exactly.
bringing the finger sandwiches.
Yep.
And
And Bradley like leans into Dougie. Is like, it was what, like electricity?
they bring in flowers and the girls. And I just love that the girls are with them wherever they go.
Right.
There's always something for them to carry or do. It cracks me up.
Yeah.
So
Hooray for indentured servitude.
seriously, if we fire her, she doesn't have anywhere else to go. So
we go back to Lancelot Court.
the Mitchum brothers, they ask Janie E for her keys because
Right.
they're going to stock up her house. So they show up to Dougie's house after what looks like a trip to Costco.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
by this point,
And Chantal's like, no, Hutch is like, now what is this?
what is this now? And then Chantal looks and says that it's a circus parade.
Yep. It looks like an effing circus parade.
And then he says, "Is one of them our boss? Is one of them Dougie?" And she's kind of annoyed with
She's
this.
like, no, stupid.
Anything like our boss. And he says to her, "You in the rag?"
Yeah, which is the absolute worst thing a guy could say.
And she gives the best response, which is, "What if I effing am?"
Exactly.
Because
Because at this point, you should have had the giant coming out of nowhere, going, "No," waving his arms. No, don't do it.
No. You do not say that. You do not say that to a woman.
So little male advice: never, ever ask a woman that. Ever.
Ever.
If you value your life, don't ask.
And to quote Key and Peele,
Yes.
if she does happen to be during her ladies' time, bring your bitch some chocolate. That is the best. That is the best ever. Those two.
I just love that you connected Twin Peaks to Key and Peele. That's great.
I just love them. I love them talking.
They are great.
Those two pimps talking about menstruation are so perfect. Bring your bitch some chocolate. Anyway, so Chantal is getting annoyed.
Just real quick. Key and Peele are like my favorite sketch comedy since Kids in the Hall.
Oh, completely.
I think they're in that. It's in that league. It's in the Monty Python, Kids in the Hall, Key and Peele.
Saturday Night Live, Key and Peele. Exactly. They're fantastic.
That's like the upper echelon of sketch comedy, in my opinion.
Oh, they're so good. They're even good in when they're not being Key and Peele, like when they're in Fargo.
Mm.
This is where you work now. They're closing the door, and Key's like, "I have accommodation." So anyway, not only is Chantal annoyed by the fact that they're sitting there waiting, not only is she annoyed by the fact that Hutch is asking her, is one of them Dougie, when obviously none of them look like their boss.
Right.
She's also on her last bag of Cheetos.
Which makes things even worse.
That's the problem here.
Yeah.
This is the last bag, Hutch.
Yep. It's the last effing bag.
The last effing bag. So yeah.
You would think Hutch would have like a secret stash of Cheeto bags hidden away for like the emergency bags.
He knows to get extra ketchup. He knows to get a dessert. Why doesn't he know to have a case of Cheetos waiting at all times?
Yeah.
We should figure that out. So anyway, we've got the FBI, we've got Hutch and Chantal, and we've got we've got the Mitchum brothers
And the candy, Mandy, Candy, and Sandy.
the candy, yeah, and then
They
their delivery people
right,
loading up the house with all their supplies, and then Dougie's across the street neighbor Zawoski comes home.
right. Now this is where it gets really interesting. So apparently this guy who's listed in the credits as the Polish accountant.
Yes,
But his
and
name's probably Zawoski because he's got Zawoski Accounting on the side of the car.
on the side of his car, and I'm thinking based on what he does,
Yeah,
he's an accountant for the Polish mafia.
presumably, yes.
Yeah,
So he's like he's basically this bald, heavy-set, kind of lumbery guy in a brown leather jacket. And so he parks in front of Hutch and Chantal's van. And he asks them to move because he says they were blocking his driveway.
we're nowhere near your driveway.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not even in your driveway. So so Chantal tells him to F off. And then the
He
Polish
says,
accountant goes, I move car.
"I move car."
I move car. And so he goes back to his car, backs up, and then all of a sudden rams their van head
And
on.
just starts revving to try and push their van out
Right.
of the way of his driveway,
Exactly.
which they are in fact blocking, by the way.
See, I thought they weren't blocking it. I thought they were kind of like on the, just outside, but apparently he wanted more room to
They're
turn
close
into his
enough. They're close enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So Chantal gets annoyed by this
Right.
and jumps into the driver's seat.
Now she's at this point because all right, she's on her last bag of Cheetos.
She's
She's
on her
been
last-
wanting to torture somebody for quite a while.
She's up. She's had her fill of everything, so she leans out the front and shoots at him.
Right.
Well, he then gets out of his car, gets into his trunk, pulls out a machine gun.
Yeah. So he's basically like, "Oh yeah, fine," and he pulls out like an Uzi machine gun.
Yeah.
And starts spraying their van. So like, Chantal gets winged in the shoulder. So they finally like, oh, I guess maybe we better leave. So they peel out of here, and they try to leave, and then Zawoski he sprays the side of the van with the Uzi, and bullets perforate the van.
Kills Chantal.
Yeah, it goes right through. Yeah, basically perforates Chantal and Hutch in the process.
Well, Hutch goes to shoot out the back.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
And then he airs out the van even more and winds up killing Hutch.
Right. So, but because they're both dead, the van just kind of like slowly goes down the road and then kind of crashes sort of into like a lamppost or something.
Right, and then of course the whole thing where Chantal is leaning on the horn, so the horn is just going.
Right. And
So then,
meanwhile, the FBI guys that were left behind
right,
are watching this, like kind of like looking at each other like, oh, did we do anything about this? And then they're like, okay, so then they pull their guns on Zawoski and tell him to put his gun down, which he does. He complies rather.
Well, yeah, he goes in without a fight.
Right.
But the whole time the Mitchum brothers are watching this, they hear the shots, pull their guns out, and they're sort of taking cover behind Dougie's bushes.
Right, they're kind of off to the side, over by Dougie's bushes. So you got Rodney and Bradley kind of looking at each other, and Bradley is beside himself. He's like, what does he say? Like, what the F kind of neighborhood is this? Which is pretty much everybody's question, I think, at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. And then Rodney just answers, "People are under a lot of stress, Brad."
Which, in this perfect deadpan retort, which I thought was hilarious.
Perfect deadpan. And he just says, "Let's get the girls and get out of here." Like, so then the FBI is taking Zawoski and the Mitchum brothers just get the hell out of Dodge, basically.
Yeah. So my question to you now, as you take your laptop and kind of walk through your house.
Yeah.
That remember 119 Crack Mom?
Yes, I do.
Okay, because we never really got any kind of resolution for that. That was basically like a bridge to nowhere.
Right.
What if Crack Mom was working for Zawoski? Like she was watching his house for him or something.
Here's the thing about that, though. Wasn't Crack Mom in the shitty neighborhood where Dougie and Jade were hooking up?
No, because remember, her kid went outside when Dougie's car blew up in the driveway.
It was in the driveway of that crappy house that he hooked up with.
It was in the crappy house? I thought it was in front of their house.
Yeah, remember because he couldn't find his car.
Oh, okay. I got confused. Okay.
Because they left it because he didn't have his keys, which is why Jade had to drive him to the silver Mustang.
Okay,
so his car was still in that other neighborhood, I thought.
Okay. So the empty development.
Right.
Okay, so I got it confused. I was confusing the empty development with Lancelot Court.
Yeah, I don't think that was. I mean, if Dougie's pretty stupid, but is he stupid enough to know that he's not supposed to shit where he eats?
That's true. Good point.
I mean,
that's a great argument. Thank you for setting me straight.
But yeah, that was a different neighborhood because the car didn't blow up.
Okay, I got a little confused by that.
Yeah, the car didn't blow up in his driveway. It blew up in that other one.
All right, I got it now. All right, thanks.
Sure.
See, I learned something today to your two kids. So see, it's not just you out there.
But here's the thing, though. That still doesn't leave us any closer to finding out who 119 Croc Mom is.
Yeah, and what was all that about? So apparently that was just another David Lynch rando.
The Amazing Rando.
Yeah. So, okay, so at this point, we go back to the hospital where we hear a humming, a very familiar humming, as it turns out.
Where have we heard that before?
Yeah, it couldn't be like that humming that was at the Great Northern, could it?
Sure sounds like it.
Yeah, so that kind of like catches Bushnell Mullins' ear, and he's like, he tilts his head like a dog, and he's like, he kind of like almost hypnotically kind of follows the sound out of the room. Listen to the sounds. And so Cooper's there all by himself as, surprise, he wakes up and he's back. At last, all of a sudden, Dale Cooper, yay! And of course, today I wore you can't see it out there in podcast land, but I wore my my Archer Cooper mashup T-shirt in honor of the return of Dale Cooper, the long-awaited return of Dale Cooper.
Long-awaited return of Dale Cooper. And if we're going to talk about Cooper and Archer, every time we see the donuts in the conference room, I think to myself, do you want ants, Lucy? Because this is how we get ants.
That's just begging for a matchup right there.
Seriously. Or to quote Lana, yup. So anyway, so Cooper wakes up and sees a vision of Philip Gerard. He tells him that the other one did not go back in and is still out.
Right. Well, first he says, "You are awake."
You are awake.
Finally. Which I think which pretty much speaks for the entire audience at this point.
Yes, thank God.
Finally. And Cooper's all like, "Yep, 100%."
100%. And then he gives him the ring back, and then Cooper says, he asks Philip Gerard if he still has the seed.
Yes. So we finally get a name for that little golden pearl.
The little gold ball. And so he shows him the little gold ball, and then Cooper reaches behind his ear, takes some of his hair out.
Like a lock of his hair.
Hands it to Philip Gerard and says, I need you to make another one.
It's Dino DNA. Cooper DNA.
We spared no expense. Gerard says he understands, and then he disappears just in time for Jane E., Sonny Jim, and Bushnell Mullins to come back in and see that he's awake.
Right. And they're all delighted, of course, that he's back, but Cooper is, because he's Cooper, not Dougie anymore, he's talking, and which kind of freaks everybody out.
He's talking. Dapper is talking a lot.
Yep. And so he says he has like great affection for all of them. He hurries up. He asks Bushnell Mullins for the finger sandwiches because he's starving.
He wants his clothes, and he wants a doctor to check his vitals.
Right.
And the doctor comes in, confirms that his vitals are fine.
Right.
She's going to get his release papers ready for him. And then Cooper says to Mullins, I'm going to need your gun.
Yeah, it's his 32 snub-nosed that he keeps concealed under his left arm. So obviously Cooper's powers of observation are still working.
They are still working perfectly. Then he says that he's pretty sure that somebody named Gordon Cole is going to call, and if he does, give him this message. And before this happened, a little bit ago, there was a scene before, between Dougie in a coma and the Mitchum brothers going to Dougie's house. We see a shot of Gordon Cole in that hotel room with all of that FBI monitoring equipment, and he's just sort of looking around like.
Well, he's kind of listening, I think.
He's kind of listening, like I think he thinks something is about to happen.
Well, he's got all that monitoring equipment. So, so I'm wondering if, like, maybe he was, like, there's something maybe to do with Cooper that he was waiting for, like some signal. Maybe that tone that came through.
Something like
the
it. Like
humming.
He's hearing that tone or something, but he's getting an idea that something's about to happen. I mean, I think
Right.
Gordon is.
Or maybe he's just dialed in to,
something, yeah.
Because he does. I mean, he is kind of, he's interacted with that supernatural realm. So maybe,
right.
He's obviously connected to that, like Cooper is.
Right, exactly. So
Cooper tells Bushnell Mullins that he's a fine man, and he says Mullins asked him if he wants to speak with that FBI director. And then Cooper, in this defining moment, he gets up and he looks kind of like right at the camera and goes, "I am the FBI."
That is so great.
Which
he tells,
and everybody's just like, "Yay!"
Because Mullins got a phone call from the office from someone at the Lucky Seven saying, "Hey, the FBI has just been here looking for Dougie." And he tells Dougie, he's like, "The FBI is looking for you." He's like, "Good. Well, what do you want to say?" He's like, "I am the FBI." And this whole time, the Twin Peaks theme is playing.
Yes. And this was a nice piece of work because it's like, we get to hear "Falling," the Twin Peaks theme,
mm-hmm.
and so as the theme plays as Cooper, we get to say Cooper now, goes out in the street, gets in the car with Janie E's car.
Mm-hmm.
He's driving.
Dad can drive.
Dad can drive really good. Yeah. So he's zipping in and out of traffic, and Sonny Jim's all impressed. And Janie E's kind of smiling, like all kind of proud and happy.
Mm-hmm.
For now, anyway.
Things are going well for the Joneses at the moment.
But they're driving off as the theme is playing, and so it's this big rousing, like, hey, Cooper's back, and he's off to Twin Peaks presumably.
Yep, I was so excited when this was happening. I started to cry. Yep. Just having Cooper be back and really, really back and being Cooper again.
Right.
And having that music playing, I was just like, oh, thank you, David Lynch, finally. It only took 16 episodes, but we're here.
Yeah, now I think a lot of us would have been happy if it had happened about 8 episodes ago, at least.
A little bit, yeah.
But but better late than never, I guess.
This is one of those things now that it's over and I'm able to stop being so tense about it, I can just enjoy this ride.
Right.
Although I will never not fast forward through the sweeping.
I don't blame you. I don't think anybody would blame you at that point to fast forward through the sweeping.
I love that song, but I can listen to that song any old time.
Well, hey, we've got the soundtracks now.
Yes, we do. We have the soundtracks.
Yes. So now we can listen to Booker T and the MGs doing Green Onion, like, all as long as we want. We don't need
whenever we want to.
Yeah,
exactly.
So obviously you out there have the soundtracks too, right? Okay.
If you don't, you should. You will enjoy them.
So the theme kind of bleeds into the next scene.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Yeah, exactly. So again, this is Twin Peaks. It gives you something all happy and something to feel good about, and then immediately kicks you right in the stomach.
Kicks you right in the stomach.
Yeah, or some other body part below. So
kicks you right in the binoculars.
Bad binoculars.
Bad binoculars.
So maybe I ought to get that as a sound clip. So we pick up with Diane, and she's drinking alone in the bar, and the hotel bar. Her phone buzzes, and obviously at this point we're like, uh-oh, because presumably she's going to get a text from Mr. C, Doppelganger Cooper, who's
Guess who got the smiley face all text?
Exactly.
It was Diane, and she probably just got it because Cooper just got into where Doppelganger Cooper just got into where he has cell service again.
Exactly. So she looks down. Immediately, she looks like she's visibly shaken. She's, she looks like, like something, just like she's deeply affected by this. She responds to Doppelganger Cooper by typing in the complete set of coordinates that she saw on Ruth's arm.
And then she says, I hope this works. But before that, she says, I remember.
Right. And so essentially all means kind of like, hey, all your memories are coming back.
Right.
So obviously this is all part of Doppelganger Cooper's plan to activate Diane at this point.
Exactly.
So essentially, yeah, it's like a, almost like a Manchurian Candidate kind of thing going here.
Oh, yes, it is very much like that. I hadn't thought of that comparison, but you're right.
Yeah, so essentially, yeah, it's like a subliminal, hypnotic suggestion that just gets activated, like a sleeper agent.
Right.
So
activate Agent Zarkov.
Exactly. Nice. Very nice. So she remembers everything with perfect clarity, and obviously that bothers her, considering that, oh, hey, I've got some bad memories I don't really want to think about right now.
Exactly. And then we find out...
So she opens up her purse.
He's got a gun in her bag.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. So then we follow Diane to Gordon Cole's suite. And we hear a very familiar music cue at this point.
Yes, we do.
And that, of course, is the distorted version of American Woman by the Muddy Magnolias that David Lynch kind of slowed way down.
Yes.
And so it's all dark and sinister. Yeah, like that. And this, of course, was the same music that played the first time we were introduced to Mr. C.
Yes, we were.
As he did his little road trip out to Hillbilly Land to pick up Ray and Darla.
Daria. Yep.
Daria, thank you. Daria. And obviously Doppelganger Cooper's influence, obviously very heavily inferred here. And so Gordon knows Diane is there without her knocking. There's no knocking.
He just says, come on in, Diane.
No doorbell. And so apparently he's been, he just knew she was there. He was tracking her, presumably either with his equipment or just the fact that he's dialed into what's going on.
Right.
So he tells her to enter. She sits down. She says she's now ready to finally tell what happened the night Cooper visited her 21 years ago.
Right. And this was apparently 3 or 4 years after he'd gone missing.
Yeah.
So he comes to her house. He doesn't knock. He doesn't ring the doorbell. He just walks in to her house.
Right.
So because it's 3 or 4 years after she'd stopped hearing from him, we are led to believe that this is in fact Doppelganger Cooper. So it's not, the last time she heard from him was not before he went to Twin Peaks. It was 3 or 4 years afterwards. So this is definitely Doppelganger Cooper. So he just comes into her house and she hugs him and they sit down to talk, but he keeps just asking about the FBI. She says, like he was grilling me.
Right.
And she sort of dismisses as that he just really wants the news from the Bureau about what's going on. And she keeps wanting to know what he's been up to and where he's been, but he doesn't tell her any of that. He just keeps asking her questions. And then she says they're sitting on the sofa and he leans in to kiss her, but then something went wrong.
Right. Now she was excited at this point because she was feeling that romantic
she was
tension.
So happy to see him. She was so happy he was there. And she said they had kissed one other time.
Right.
And so, when he goes in for that kiss, she knows something's not right.
Right.
Especially
the moment they touch lips.
When they touch lips, something went wrong. And unfortunately, again, he rapes her.
Yeah.
She talks about that he rapes her,
Well,
and
she talks about how he smiled at her,
oh, oh,
which, if you remember, the kind of smiles that Bob used to have. So it's probably something very skeevy.
or even the smiles that Doppelganger Cooper has when
Right.
he's feeling up Chantal and
Or Daria. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, just it's very, very disturbing. And to, especially in this situation, when you think it's someone you haven't seen in 3 or 4 years, someone that you love, someone that you trust,
Right.
and then this happens, it just has to be terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So unfortunately, Cooper rapes her, and then afterwards,
Which again was another theory that I had. That
that was another theory, and
unfortunately
again,
that I didn't want to happen, but unfortunately I was right about it.
unfortunately, you were right. And then, unfortunately, that also lends credence to the theory that he raped Audrey as well.
Right. Because obviously he's got a pattern.
So he's obviously a rapist.
Yes.
Above it. And Bob was a rapist as well. We knew that. We knew that. So, but afterwards, he takes her to an old gas station.
Yeah. And yeah, that old gas station.
Like maybe like with a convenience store, that old gas station.
Yeah, that people live above it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that. So yeah, so it's the what's it here?
Yep.
There we go. So yeah, so they're basically she's there, the woodsmen of course are there. Weird things happen, and that's kind of where her story kind of trails off.
And then she starts sort of internally fighting herself, like she's struggling with something in her own mind, and she starts yelling out, "I'm not me."
Yeah.
So
That was really like kind of terrifying, I think, at that point.
That was terrifying. And I think this was also another theory that Diane wasn't really Diane, especially with that white hair.
I thought that it was because of like what happened to Leland.
Right.
But I was sort of on the right track, but not exactly.
But I think there might be something to that white hair. And again, I get ahead of myself.
Oh, yes.
But
that you might want to save to next week.
Right. I'm just thinking that, but we had this theory that she wasn't really who she was. But she's sort of still in there, able to kind of fight herself. So she's
kind of like struggling.
Yes. She's yelling out, "I'm not me. I'm not me." And then she pulls the gun out of her purse.
Right.
And goes to shoot Gordon.
But of course, got a couple of sharpshooters in the house.
Yep.
Tammy and Albert both open fire.
Yep.
Take her out. So Diane is presumably off the table, and then all of a
Diane
sudden
disappears.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then she just suddenly disappears, like gone.
Yep, just gone.
And
like somebody we've heard of before, maybe like Lois Duffy.
Yes. So at this point, Tammy is freaked out. She's like, "Oh my God, was that a tulpa?"
She's like, "Oh my God, they're real. That was a real tulpa."
Yeah.
So she's shocked, but also fascinated by everything that's coming true that she's been told.
Right. And Albert's sitting there silent. He's just kind of like, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
Gordon is off to the side going, he's not even thinking about the tulpa thing. He's going, sheriff's station?
Because Diane said that she gave him coordinates to a sheriff's station.
Right. And so what's sheriff's station has been pretty predominant. Oh, hey, the Twin Peaks sheriff's station.
I think we know which one.
We have a winner.
Yeah. So anyway, so Diane disappears.
Yes.
And they're all sitting there flabbergasted. And then we cut to the waiting room where Diane shows up. She's sitting in one of the chairs in the waiting room.
Right.
And Philip Gerard looks at her and says, "Someone manufactured you."
Right. And Diane, of course, being Diane, replies, "I know.
I know.
F you.
F you."
which was just hilarious.
That was pretty good, yeah. And then her face cracks open, not in the same way.
Well, like her jaw kind of shifts around, like she's cracking her jaw, and then her face cracks as a result, like an egg.
Right, and what comes out of her face is like black smoke, and it's not the same face cracking open that Sarah and Laura have already shown us.
No.
It's something different.
Yeah, because that was just more like I'm removing my face, which is all even and circular, and just kind of like it was a doorway, a gateway.
Like it was a doorway.
But this is just more like, just something cracked open, and the black smoke just kind of. And this is very similar to the black smoke, of course, that Dougie, when he entered the waiting room, that is basically the same thing because, hey, he's a tulpa.
He's a tulpa, and the way Cooper came into the room through the outlet was black smoke. So it's the same thing.
Right.
So then she sort of pulses a little bit and then completely deflates.
Right.
And then all that's left of her is a seed, one of those little gold balls. So someone made her to the same reason they made Dougie, to throw people off and to create so she was like doppelganger Diane.
Exactly. So at this point, everybody's first question is, where's the real Diane?
Where the heck is the real Diane, and how long has she been this Diane? And I am assuming...
Presumably 21 years ago.
I'm assuming that exact same thing, too. That's exactly what he did when he took her to the convenience store with the woodsman.
Right. So presumably, while he was at the convenience store, that's when the tulpa was created. There was the swap.
Right.
And the real Diane is somewhere.
And that would also explain why Diane quit working at the bureau and why she's now just a drunk.
Right. Because she knows she's not the real Diane.
She's not me. I'm not me.
I'm not me. So, it was just something that, so maybe that's why Sarah Palmer drinks.
Oh!
Dun, dun, dun!
Interesting, because Sarah Palmer...
Oh, not that one. That's what I was looking for.
Sarah Palmer always smoked, but she didn't always drink like that.
Yeah, now she drinks like a fish.
Yeah.
Shut up, you.
Just dramatic music wherever you go.
I know. Exactly. That's my soundtrack. It gets a little awkward when, like I'm in church or something. No, just kidding.
Yeah, the movies, people don't like you.
No. Or libraries. Libraries.
Really,
they're gunning for me.
Yep.
It's still going on.
So Diane is a seed, and we're just left wondering, and we go back to the Silver Mustang.
Yes, the Silver Mustang Casino. Cooper shows up with Janie E. and Sonny Jim. Cooper, at this point, I think he's regretting what's about to happen. He knows what he has to do, I think.
He does. And they're there at the Silver Mustang to meet the Mitchum brothers so they can fly him on their private jet to Spokane.
Right. And so Rodney tells, Bradley, we're gassing up the jet. We're going to Spokane.
And when they get there, they say the jet's all gassed up and ready. And Janie says, where are we going?
Right, because she's expecting to go along.
Right, so he sort of walks her over and just sort of sits down, and they have this very...
surrounded by the slot machines.
Surrounded by the slot machines.
So a nice little metaphor there.
And I'm wondering, who's
Jackpots.
Who's okay with this little kid just being in the casino?
To be fair, Bradley and Rodney own the casino. I'm guessing they'll let it slide.
They'll let this slide this one time, but it's like, yep, I don't know. Anyway,
maybe they figure, well, okay, he's a friend of the. Yeah, it's like we were told to just let this go.
They're going to do just about anything for Dougie. He's got $30 million worth of goodwill credit for them.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So.
And he brought cherry pie, so that goes a long way too.
Yeah. Oh. Seriously.
Yeah.
So he goes over to talk to Janie E. and Sonny Jim in private, and then Rodney and Bradley talk about how Dougie is sure talking with a lot of assurance.
Yes. And
then Bradley figures side effects. Like that's side effect of coma. I do like the Mitchum brothers. But they're kind of bad guys.
I wasn't sure about them at first, but now because now they're on Team Cooper.
Right.
That they're okay.
I would be sad to see them go, and I will admit, just to go back a little bit, I was a little sad to see Hutch and Chantel go.
Yes, yeah, no, and I know, I figured that was who you were talking about earlier because
They
yeah,
were,
because
and
they would be a great spin-off too. Like, so you could have the Hutch and Chantal show, you could have the Mitchum Brothers show with Candy, Mandy, and Sandy.
featuring Candy Mandy and Sandy, yeah.
Yeah,
And so they were at least entertaining,
right.
and
They could carry their own spin-off show.
right, they were at least entertaining, and they. This is going to sound strange, but they also got rid of obstacles for Cooper slash Dougie.
Right.
Like if there's no warden, who cares if they find Cooper or Dougie, or because of course they all have the same freaking fingerprints.
Yes.
So if they find one, they're going to have to go back to North Dakota. And
well, yeah, they're essentially a plot device,
right,
to get Cooper from A to B.
Right, and they also killed Duncan Todd, who is an impediment to Dougie. So they kind of do what you want for the protagonist while working for the antagonist. They're interesting characters, so that's why.
Well, they almost had like almost like a symbiotic relationship because like Dougie helped them, they helped Dougie,
Mm-hmm.
who in turn became Cooper. So yeah,
right.
So
right.
they both helped the other move their various plots forward.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, and they're interesting characters. Whereas Richard does nothing but cause pain to characters I already like.
Exactly. Yeah, he's just a pure antagonist that that is there to create conflict and chaos.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And he's not a character that I'm interested in learning anything else about.
Right.
I'd be interested in learning about Hutch and Chantal, like how did they meet and how did they become assassins
and how did Chantal get so into Cheetos?
Seriously, and what's her thing for ketchup?
I kind of wonder if like maybe she's like hypoglycemic or something, like she needs some kind of food something goes on there, but who knows?
And why did Hutch owe Sammy money? I mean, there's a lot of questions that we could have.
Maybe we'll get those in the final dossier.
Ooh, maybe. That'd be nice.
Even though you don't like that word, final.
I don't like the word final, but it's at least something.
Yeah, I don't think David Lynch likes that word either because he's not big on endings, is he?
No, he never wraps anything up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, of course.
Of course we will.
So he says, Cooper says goodbye to Janie E. He basically tells them he loves them, and he makes a comment to both of them. Says, at some point, I'm going to walk through that red door, and I'll be home for good.
Yeah, that was so sweet. And
so I kind of wonder if that's like an ultimate. I'd like to think that was an ultimate payoff. Like that would be the end of Cooper's story, is that he returns home to them.
That would be kind of sweet. Like that's where he retires or something.
Right.
That would be really sweet.
Yeah.
So he goes to leave, and Janie E says, "You're not Dougie," but then Sonny Jim's like, "You're my dad." So he's like, "Yes, I'm your dad." He's trying to reassure Sonny Jim. So as he gets up to leave, Janie E follows him and just looks at him and says, "Whoever you are, thank you." It's like she knows.
Like he's some guardian angel.
Exactly. She knows he's not Dougie, but he's there to take care of them somehow.
But I don't think she cares at this point.
No, she's
like, I'm okay with you as Dougie's replacement.
And that's the thing. Has Dougie ever really particularly been that dynamic of a personality in the first place that she's going to miss him all that much?
Apparently not.
I mean, everybody's talking about how Dougie's actually talking more. I mean, Dougie was probably just a quiet guy that sat around and didn't do very much. And
especially with the accident.
Posted for a job and...
Yeah, especially once he had the car accident, that he wasn't that, like, there.
Right. And that's what we said. We were saying that no one seems particularly surprised by how Dougie is just not talking and not understanding anything.
I'm glad we got an explanation for that, because that was kind of bugging me there for the longest time. It's like, why is everybody like all cool with him acting so weird and walking in like into elevator doors and whatnot,
and doesn't know how to pee?
Yeah, exactly. And needs help going to the bathroom. as an adult male
Yeah.
of 50 something.
Seriously.
So yeah, so they arranged the flight to Spokane. Um, Cooper, he's riding in the limo with the Mitchums and the Mandy, Candy, and Sandy.
Candy,
He,
where's my Bloody Mary?
exactly. So I don't know if Cooper's like drinking. Like I don't know if it was coffee or what.
Coffee.
I think it was coffee.
Yeah, it was coffee.
But
Let me get this straight.
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't sell insurance.
Right.
You're an FBI agent who's been missing for 25 years. And we've got to get you to a town called Twin Peaks, to the sheriff's station.
This is Bradley trying to grasp this, yes.
This is Rodney trying to grasp this.
You're right, it was Rodney. I'm sorry.
And he says, that's it. And then Bradley says, Dougie, we love you, but we are not usually accepted in such places or by such aforementioned people.
Right.
And then Cooper says, boys, that's about to change. I am witness to the fact that you two have hearts of gold.
And this immediately sets off Candy.
And she says, they do. They really do.
And she's all like she's got this really like almost bizarrely happy smile, like someone that was like in a cult would wear on their face.
Right. And this is again like what is Candy's story that they have taken such good care of her?
That I want to know so bad now. After they made a point of focusing on Candy, I want to know how that happened. How do we get to them wearing these like cocktail waitress dresses, and being so subservient to these guys?
But then also them, they do all these crazy things and they just let it go, and the whole, if we fire her, she has nowhere else to go.
Right.
Like they want to take care of them, but what happened?
And why, like, if these guys are like, are criminals, like, what is it about these girls that even when Candy smacks Rodney in the face with a newspaper or remote control, thank you, because she's trying to nail a fly. And he just kind of shrugs it off instead of just like either beating the crap out of her or killing her.
Or firing her even.
Or even just firing her. But yes. Yeah. So something, there's some kind of like reason why they care about these girls so much.
Exactly. And I have no idea what that is, but it will be definitely interesting.
It would be. So, last thing we get.
Speaking of a town called Twin Peaks.
So yeah, after hearing the theme, we finally go back to Twin Peaks. Remember that place? So we finally see Audrey and Charlie
at the
Roadhouse. So apparently, somehow, after Audrey strangles Charlie, she got him to put on his damn coat and go take her to the Roadhouse.
Exactly. And the Roadhouse has a little-known act.
Yeah.
Some Severson.
Yeah, some minor guy.
And I will admit that when I was watching this part, I wasn't exactly looking at the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard him singing, and I'm like, wait a second.
Oh, you're like, oh, hey, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam.
Eddie Vedder. And I looked it up, and that is, in fact, Eddie Vedder's given name.
Yeah.
So.
Which I thought was clever that they used his given name.
I think that is clever, yeah.
See, I knew Eddie Vedder was supposed to be on there with Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails.
Oh, see, I didn't know any of that.
But I didn't know if it was going to be this episode, so I was kind of surprised that it was this episode. But I figured it had to be coming up because, hey, we're running out of episodes. We don't have much.
Yeah.
So he plays a song called Out of Sand, which is okay in my opinion. I've never been Pearl Jam guy.
I haven't particularly been Pearl Jam huge fan either.
I was more Nirvana, Foo Fighters guy. I'm not Pearl Jam guy.
See, that was the thing. My 90s, like when Pearl Jam and Nirvana...
Or Weezer, even. I like Weezer. But
Weezer was college for me. It was a little later. But that whole early 90s scene... The early 90s...
Green Day.
The early 90s for me was more of a way for me to play catch-up to the 80s.
Okay.
Like, that's when I finally went back and got really heavily into the bands that I briefly heard about when I was a kid. Like that's when I became a huge Devo fan and a huge Talking Heads fan, and started really listening to Blondie a lot and that kind of stuff. So I sort of went backwards at that time. When it came to the stuff from the 90s, I was more like into like the Sundays and
Right.
Throwing Muses and stuff like that. So that was more my 90s.
Got
But
it.
yeah, Pearl Jam was one of those things that I saw them before they got huge. They were at a Lollapalooza. Like they were the second or third act or something. They were on early in the day. And we
Okay.
like,
So very earlier in their career.
yeah, we like wandered up to the front row. We're like, yeah, these guys are okay. I mean, we're just,
Yeah.
yeah, they
No
just,
big, nothing big, nothing big.
yeah, they never grabbed me. Now, as a person, I like Eddie Vedder quite a bit, with his politics, his views on education, things like
Right.
that. But
Right.
just never been like the biggest Pearl Jam fan in the world.
Yeah, me neither.
But nothing wrong with them. Just
No,
not
no,
my,
no. I know. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are big Pearl Jam fans, and I don't want to dismiss that. It's just not me.
well, I'm at that age where bands I don't like aren't automatically bands that I say suck.
Yeah,
If it's a band I don't like, that's one thing. Now, if you suck, that's different.
yeah.
And I've seen some bands
You
that
can
really
you can
suck.
appreciate Eddie Vedder's talent, even though
Totally.
you may not be a particularly big fan of his.
Right, exactly. Or you can look at things from an objective point of view and say, this is not my thing. I get it, but it's not my thing.
Yeah,
Whereas when you're young, you're like, oh, they suck. It's like, no, you just don't like them.
yeah,
That's a different thing.
yeah. It's very easy to be black and white when you're
Right.
younger, but of course as you get older, you see the shades of gray.
You definitely see the shades of gray in your own hair. And therefore,
Yeah.
you see them everywhere. You see them in the mirror, and then you see them everywhere.
And then you reach for the tweezers and the scissors, like, oh, get it out, get it out.
And then you realize that if you start plucking it, you're not going to have any hair left over. And that's when you get sad. And then you remember you're old enough to drink now, and then everything's okay.
There's a lot. There's a lot to psychoanalyze in those last couple sentences.
That's very true. That's very true. Speaking of drinking,
Yeah, speaking of drinking, as we were,
Charlie goes up to the bar and orders 2 martinis,
right?
which just sort of miraculously appear. Like the bartender just reaches under the bar,
Like he
and
was waiting for them to show up to get their martinis.
right, like it's a freaking play or something, where it's just like a bad play.
Or maybe it's a dream.
Maybe it's a dream within a dream.
Yeah,
Very.
but who is the dreamer?
Oh, we don't even know.
I think we know.
Well,
I think we know. I think we
I-
know.
I think we know, but we don't know quite
We
who's the.
we kind of get a hint in this episode.
Oh yeah, we do. So they have their martinis, and Charlie says, he holds up his glass and he says, "Here's to us, Audrey." She sort of looks at him and smirks and says, "Here's to Billy," and then
Yeah.
clinks his glass.
Yeah.
And she takes a drink, and then the MC comes on after Eddie Vedder is done,
Right.
and says,
And this is where it gets very surreal.
"This is where it gets very, very weird."
Yeah. Very David Lynch.
Ladies and gentlemen, Audrey's Dance.
Right.
And for those of you who know the original soundtrack, that piece of music that plays is called Audrey's Dance because of that scene where Audrey comes into the double R,
Right.
puts money in the jukebox, picks the song, and just dances around and says, "Isn't this music so dreamy?"
Yeah, exactly. And that was like, I want to say episode 2, 3
Yeah,
of the original, so very early.
Yeah, very, very early on. So the floor clears out, and Audrey just sort of, she's very Dale Arden, like she's almost being hypnotized to come dance.
Yeah, the great Flash Gordon reference, by the way.
Thank you. It's 2 in 1 episode. I'm proud of myself.
That's true.
So she goes out in the middle of the dance floor and just starts dancing the same way that she danced
Yeah, she recreates the original dance.
as a teenager.
But of
yes.
course, she's older, so it's a little different.
Right.
Her body doesn't move. But it's interesting because her face, depending on because the roadhouse, the lights from overhead, and the way, like, depending on her angle or whatnot, it almost looked like her face. I mean, almost like it transformed back to her younger self.
When it was bright on her
Yeah,
face, she
yeah,
very much looked like her younger self.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously the light smoothed out the wrinkles and the age,
Hmm.
so it kind of washed that out. So yeah, it was almost like we're seeing the young Audrey again, at least in her face.
Right.
And I thought and then it's this very like surreal, dreamlike moment. And then all of a sudden it gets interrupted because, hey, there's a bar fight. Because, hey, it's the Roadhouse. Of course there's a bar fight.
Barney, that's my wife, you a-hole!
Yeah. So suddenly another couple of Roadhouse randos go after each other, snapping Audrey out of that her dance.
Her dreamy trance,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and we forgot to mention that, hey, before she started her dance, the entire dance floor, everyone that was on the dance floor just
Cleared out.
in unison, as soon as the MC announced it, clears the dance floor to make room for Audrey.
Right.
Again, like something out of a dream.
It's like Tony Manero is coming onto the dance floor, and
Yeah,
everybody knows to just stand back and watch him go.
right. Like apparently this is a very special thing. Everybody knows it, so we're just going to stand back and let it happen.
Exactly. So yeah, everybody clears out, and then she's all alone on a spot under a spotlight doing her dance. So she sees the fight break out, and she gets scared and runs over to Charlie and grabs him and says, "Get me out of here!"
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the Roadhouse is gone, and Audrey is looking in a mirror she's no makeup, all white clothing, stark white room,
In
and
a
she's just
mirror.
here going, "What? What?"
Yeah.
She's terrified and confused.
Yeah, like essentially almost like she just woke up from something,
Something.
at least temporarily,
Right. And then
and then we cut away.
we're done. We're done with the episode.
Yeah.
Except through the credits,
Yeah.
the Roadhouse band plays Audrey's dance backwards.
Exactly.
So what does
No
that mean?
no symbolism there.
None whatsoever. It's David Lynch. He doesn't do that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So did Audrey have like a psychotic break, or did the sleeper must awaken?
Did the sleeper awaken? That's the thing. And I read, and I'll find this and I'll post it to our Facebook site. I read a blog entry that was an interesting theory about that.
Okay, what's the theory?
The theory is that the dream within a dream, that these glimpses that these characters are seeing, is actually real life.
Okay.
The fourth wall, it's
Yeah,
breaking the fourth wall.
right.
And part of that theory is because the MC says Audrey's dance. That's the title of that piece of music from the soundtrack in the real world.
Okay.
And Audrey is obsessed with finding Billy. Now, I know we've heard about Billy getting beaten up and things like that, but who was Audrey in love with when she was blown up?
Yeah, that was obviously John Justice Wheeler.
Who played him?
Billy Zane, exactly. So it was very meta.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's part of this theory. And there's more to this theory that has to do with the next two
So
episodes.
so is your take on that theory then that it was Sherilyn Fenn who looked in the mirror
I don't
and
know.
not Audrey?
That is a really, really good question because I'm not sure who it is because
Yeah.
whoever it is very confused, is not wearing makeup, so they don't look like Audrey.
Right.
They look like Sherilyn Fenn. Now, granted, Sherilyn Fenn looks a lot like Audrey, and she wears makeup too, but this is a little bit different. So, or Audrey could be glimpsing into
Oh, you kind of froze up there.
glimpsing past the fourth wall.
Got
Oh,
it.
did I?
A little bit, yeah.
Am I still frozen?
Yeah, you're good.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's all right. So okay, since this is essentially the last scene we get with Audrey, this is my take on what happened with this scene and what the deal is with Audrey. This is
Okay.
my pet theory.
Because spoiler alert,
Yes, this is
this is the
this,
last scene we get with
this is
Audrey.
the last scene we get with Audrey. I hate to break it to you, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I might as well talk about it now. All right. So my theory with Audrey is that Audrey, and this is probably a very obvious theory. Audrey was in the coma, has been in the coma all this time, as Zan grabs her porg
I need comforting.
for theory. Have you named him yet?
No, he's just poor.
He's just porg. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So so essentially, or not Bjorn porg or anything,
Here's my plan.
or maybe Bjorn porg.
I'd like to get a second one,
Yeah.
and then they'd be Porgy
Porgy
and
and
Bess.
Bess. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That'd be good.
that's the plan.
That's good. All right. So yeah, so my theory is that Audrey was in the coma. That moment where she's looking in the mirror, that was the first glimpse of reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole thing was Audrey, and like I'm presuming that she was actually maybe in like some kind of mental institution. And my theory is that
That's possible.
my theory that Charlie was the voice of her therapist.
Something, yeah.
Because he was trying to coax her out of that coma or that kind of catatonic state. Maybe she was in a catatonic state. So he wanted her to like, okay, like, all right, if you're not going to come out of the coma, like to go to the roadhouse. The roadhouse was essentially a metaphor to get her out of that catatonic state.
Right. It gets her out.
Yes. So the therapist was essentially going, okay, I'm going to take off my coat. You're obviously not ready to come out, to basically reverse psychology,
Mm-hmm.
in a way to coax her to come out. Like, okay, you're not going, so I'm going to force you to get angry so that you want to come out.
Right.
And so I think at this point, yeah, and for whatever reason, they coax her enough to the roadhouse, which is essentially closer to reality.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she, at least for a brief moment, we don't know exactly how long, she stays awake, but apparently returns to reality. Now the question, of course, is while she was in a catatonic state, did everything in the return happen while she was in that catatonic state? Was she the dreamer that Monica Bellucci was talking about?
That's what I'm wondering too. Is she the dreamer that Monica Bellucci was talking about? And if so, what does that mean for what Richard said about her, where he said, "My mom had your picture."
Right.
He didn't say your picture was in my mom's things or anything like that. And he made it sound like he had spent some of his childhood with his mother.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know exactly, okay, how much of this is the real.
Right.
And how much of this was a coma dream, if anything. Or maybe all of it was the coma dream. We don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Because remember the whole indication, well, is it future, is it past?
If the future is it past.
So we don't know, like maybe things aren't happening chronologically. In the very end, maybe what we saw here, the end of this episode, is the very end where Audrey wakes up out of that coma dream, where she dreamed what happened.
Very possible. Yeah, we live inside a dream.
Exactly.
So
maybe we live inside Audrey's dream.
Perhaps.
So that's my theory.
Yeah. Or right. Yeah. I have no idea. And
it just seems like the natural, like if you wanted to take what's been given to us and take it out to its natural conclusion, that seems to me the logical way to do it. If you wanted to go the logical route. But obviously, it's art, so it's obviously very open to all kinds of interpretation.
And it's not just art; it's David Lynch, so it's open to even more types of speculation,
exactly,
and interpretation.
So interesting. I want to, on a side note, David Lynch. I just posted this on Damn Good Coffee earlier today, my blog Geeky Things, and apparently he was asked. He was at what was it here? He was speaking at some like like a conference, or he was doing like a I don't know if it was a fundraiser or what. I'm gonna have to pull this up, but apparently he was asked. He did it. He was doing like a Skype, um, like a discussion. Like it was almost like a panel discussion, and
Okay.
he was asked by someone about well, what happened with Audrey. This is the basically his first comments after the finale aired.
Okay.
So yeah, he was apparently like he was doing like in support of like this. He had a photo exhibition that was on display at the Belgrade Culture Center in Serbia. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so he's doing like a Skype session, and so yeah, he was asked about the fate of Audrey Horne, but he declined to reveal it. What her actual fate was. He said, quote, "What matters is what you believe happened. Many things in life just happen, and we have to come to our own conclusions. You can, for example, read a book that raises a series of questions, and you want to talk to the author, but he died 100 years ago. That's why everything is up to you."
Okay.
So that's all kind of enigmatic and frustrating, but very Lynch.
Well, I think that's almost the role of the artist, though, to
Yeah,
give us something that we make our own,
right.
and with what we want to believe can be what actually is.
Exactly. Now, on a lighter note, he did a much more optimistic note. He did say, "Hey, maybe there's a chance Twin Peaks season 4 could happen."
Oh, please, David Lynch.
But he says, hey, if it was continued, there's not. He says it's too early to say if it is going to be continued. But he said if it does, fans are going to have to be patient because, hey, quote, "It took me 4.5 years to write and film this season."
That's better than 25 more years.
Exactly. Now, David Lynch, for those who don't know, he's 71.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's going to get cracking on this, he better start pretty quickly, in my
More
opinion,
importantly,
or at least
Harry,
write some notes.
Harry Dean Stanton is 91.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
And we need some more Carl Rod.
I need some Carl Rod in my life here. All right? I need the angel of the trailer park to come back.
You need some Rod.
Well, that sounds dirty.
I know. It's just there.
It's just there.
I
Yeah.
apologize. All right, so yeah, we definitely, it would be nice if it happened, but apparently if it doesn't, it's open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to think, hopefully, because that scene did seem all kinds of abrupt. Like it was almost like a cliffhanger for the next season.
I just really want Audrey to be okay.
Yeah. I don't think she's okay. I think she's in a really horrible place right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want her left like that either.
Yeah, seriously.
So we kind of need something to fix that. Again, kind of like we did with Cooper back in the day, where we weren't happy with how his ending at that point,
Yeah.
until we got a sort of better ending, but not really. So,
It's right. It's something.
but
And
we'll
I would
talk
like
about
us
it.
to
We'll
have,
talk about that eventually, obviously.
I'd like us to have something.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
we got Ed and Norma,
Yes,
so
we did.
that was nice. So that seemed to be the only thing that really worked out.
I hope it. Yeah, I hope it works
If you
out.
think if you think about it,
Yeah.
we'll see. All right, so yeah, that's kind of where we were left off for this week. Yeah, we're just the that backwards version of Audrey's theme, which I thought was rather interesting.
That was very interesting.
But I think that's about it. Did we forget anything?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I think we got everything, and it just sort of wrapped some things up and opened some more cans of worms, which is a classic episode of Twin Peaks. So
The more questions than what it answers.
Exactly. So we're just going to have to wait and see what the dreamer dreams for us.
Yes. And obviously we have 2 more episodes to talk about.
Yes, we
So
do.
so stay tuned, everybody.
Yep.
It's a very interesting ride from here on out,
Yes, it is.
if it hasn't been already.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so what's your rating for this one?
This one is 9 out of 10 finger sandwiches.
I was going to go that route, but I came with something better, I think. 9 out of 10 bad binoculars. Bad binoculars.
I left that one for you, actually.
Oh, you did?
I thought of that one, too, but I'm like, who else is going to take that? So I'm going to take finger sandwiches.
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny because I was tempted to take finger sandwiches, so we almost took each other's.
I know, that's right. Partly because I'm kind of hungry, so...
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll hurry up so we can go eat.
Sandwiches because I'm starving.
All right. So obviously next time on Ghostwood, we're going to talk about The Return Part 17.
Part 1 of the final episode.
And, oh my lordy, Part 17 is a big, big episode.
Yes, it is.
So...
Yes, it is.
Looking forward to talking about that one with you.
Oh, very much so.
And in the meantime, now that we're kind of getting back on track, Zan, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
I'm on Facebook. I'm Zan Sprouse on Facebook. And on Twitter and Instagram, I am Udinax19. What about you, Charles?
Of course, I'm at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram, where I recently posted a bunch of pics of my recent trip to Scotland, London, mostly Doctor Who related on the Instagram. But I did set up a Facebook album, so if you want to check out the full pics of Scotland, more than just the Doctor Who stuff, that's up on my Facebook page, so Charles Skaggs. Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus. And, of course, my blog of geeky things. Any day now. Come on. Hello. Hello, McFly.
Think, McFly.
Come on, McFly. Think.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
There we go.
Do you know what would happen if I turned in my blog in your handwriting? I get kicked out of school. You wouldn't want that to happen, would you?
Think, McFly.
Would you? No, of course I wouldn't want that to happen.
Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
It's leave. It's make like a tree and leave. You sound like an idiot when you say it wrong. Which I promise you is the only time I will ever quote Back to the Future 2.
Really?
Yes.
You don't like Back to the Future 2?
I like one aspect of Back to the Future 2.
Okay, what's the one aspect?
Billy Zane.
Oh. Stupid question. Get it?
Yeah, okay, there's no Crispin Glover, but there is a Billy Zane. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get.
Okay. I mean, granted, it's my least favorite of the 3.
My least favorite is the third one because
really?
I feel like
I love that one.
They packed it so full of McFlys, though. That was my biggest problem with the my biggest problem with the second one is they were back and forth and back and forth and back and forth so many times.
Right.
But then they had to just jam it full of McFlys. Like he played his daughter, he played his son, and he plays there's just too many McFlys.
Got it.
Everywhere.
Well, because it was a generational thing.
Still, though,
I get it. I mean, they showed in 2. They showed his future generations, and then obviously they showed his dad's parents and stuff. So
right,
yeah.
But I didn't particularly like either one of them. But the second one was, at least, I don't know. At least Biff got a major comeuppance in the second one.
Yeah, he did.
And I like comeuppance stories. I really do. I don't necessarily like revenge stories as much. I mean, I like revenge stories, but I prefer comeuppance stories.
Okay. You like the where the bad guy gets what's coming to him.
Okay, my favorite comeuppance moment.
Yeah.
In film and in literature, but in film because you get to see the look on his face.
Right.
Is Sense and Sensibility, Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility.
Okay.
Which
version?
At the end of not the zombie version.
You mean not Pride and Prejudice and Zombies? That was a different Jane Austen.
Not the Sea Monsters version. There's a Sense and Sensibility.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so this is not the Sea Monster version. This is the original version.
Okay.
At the end of the story, where Marianne is getting married to Colonel it's Marianne and Colonel Brandon's wedding.
Okay.
and you're watching their wedding, and then you pan back from afar on top of the hill, and you see Willoughby watching the wedding with this look of regret on his face.
Right.
And every time I watch that movie, I'm like, that's what you get, Willoughby! Because he's so horrible, and he so deserves to be sad the rest of his days because he's such a bad person.
Right.
So, yeah, I love that. And, or like the end of, and, sometimes these are not the greatest movies in the world, but the end of Working Girl, I love the end of that movie. where Sigourney Weaver gets told she gets thrown out on her bony ass.
Yeah.
She stole the idea.
Nice. I like, let's see, Die Hard with the Walter Peck. No, that's Ghostbusters. I'm sorry.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah,
well,
that's
Die
good.
Hard also.
Because the same actor, yeah. So,
yeah, at the end of Die Hard, where Bonnie Bedelia punches him out.
You're punching him, exactly. So there's that, and of course Ed Rooney in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, who totally had it coming.
Exactly, and then another one is Shawshank Redemption, where Andy Dufresne just completely sticks it to the warden, to the point where the warden has no other way out. So I like that. Yeah, I like a comeuppance.
Yeah,
I like a comeuppance.
Or
tale.
Hey, Richard Horne getting zapped on top of a rock in the middle of nowhere.
Love that.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, love that.
Yep. So
the only
you see how I brought that back to Twin Peaks?
I do. I see how you did that. The only person I don't like seeing get what's coming to them, is Tessio in The Godfather.
Oh.
I don't. But Carlo, on the other hand, I can watch Carlo get strangled 100 times in a row.
Yeah.
But I don't like that Tessio has to die. That makes me sad. So, but yeah, he's about the only one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So I think that about does it. Next time, Twin Peaks Part 17.
Part 17.
And, in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, we haven't heard from anybody in a while, but if you want to reach us on our Facebook page, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks Podcast on Facebook, we'd definitely appreciate it, especially if you would like us and drop us a line.
Us, tell us what you want to hear, subscribe to us.
Give us. We still need to know your thoughts on the finale. So
very much so.
So if you drop us a line about that, we could talk about that, especially when we talk about the finale. And otherwise, you can reach us on Twitter at GhostwoodCast on the Twitter machine, or you can drop us a line, an email. Remember the old school email, ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. It's .com. In the words of Homestar Runner.
Homestar Runner. You don't know it yet, but I'm the reason you're here.
Holy crap, man. Right.
Holy crap. Checking the email. Checking the email.
Checking the email. email. Oh, the email.
Oh, email.
The strong bag references just fly so easily.
Email strong bad references.
Their cheat is grounded. And the cheat is playing with the light switch.
We had that light switch at your height installed for you, and you're abusing it. The cheat is grounded.
It is grounded.
Yeah, there's a
That's one of my favorite strong bag things ever.
That one's
the rave.
Just a song by itself. It's so wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are.
The system is down. The system is down. First, you take like a line from like an old sci-fi movie, and repeat it over and over.
Like, somebody in the back. I don't know if you're a big pinball person.
Yeah.
But there's a pinball game called Medieval Madness.
Right. Okay.
And there's this character. The Merlin character will sometimes come on and tell you what you need to do, but he sounds like the King of Town. He's like, "I am Merlin." He sounds just like the King of Town. It is so funny.
All right. Well, this has been like the longest goodbye ever. So everybody. Now that you've got all the Strong Bad references, now you can go off and watch some Strong Bad and then come on back for Ghostwood as we cover part 17. We'll be here. Hope you will be too. And we'll talk to you next time, right here, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.